Hello, everyone. This lesson is going to be on Chapter 3, Lesson 3. In this lesson, you are going to be making more entries of transactions just like you were, but we are going to be focusing on those that affect owner's equity and asset accounts. And so it's going to be a lot of the same things that you saw in the previous lessons from Lesson 3.1 and 3.2. There is one thing that is a little different, and it is a transaction that both utilizes our special column categories on our journal, and we'll see that right away. So let's go through some examples for lesson 3.3, and then we'll have a look at your assignment. First transaction we'll look at, receive cash from sales. And as you'll remember, just as we've done previously, when you receive cash from sales, that is going to be a debit on the cash side, which is increasing our cash account because you're receiving cash for $1,100. And then our sales, which is an owner's equity account, is also going to go up, which means we are going to credit sales. So let's look at how this shakes out in the journal that we've been working on. Step one, we're going to write our date. Again, we've been working throughout this presentation in January, so we don't need to write January over here. We just need to write the actual date. And the first thing you'll notice here is that there are just some check marks, and that's something that we haven't seen yet. So let's go through what that is all about. Step two is always looking at our debits first. So where are we going to debit? And if we look at our T accounts, again, if you need to draw out the T accounts, please do so until you get really comfortable with this. But we need to debit cash. And as we looked before, our debit goes over here in the special column that we have set up for this journal. Delgado Web Services has a lot of cash transactions, so they've set up their journal with a special cash column. And we record our debit right here for $1,100. Now, where does our credit come in? Well, as you remember before, all of our other ones, maybe one of them used a special account category, and then the other one was in the chart of accounts not listed as a sales or a cash. And so we had to write in that account title on this line, and then we would record that amount under the general column under debits or credits. However, this is a sale from cash. So we received cash from making a sale, and sales is also a column that we made here as well. So there is going to be no need to type anything in here. So all you're going to do is just put a check mark under the account title. On MindTap, there is a drop-down menu, and I'll show you that for the check mark. And then we are going to record our credit underneath the sales credit. And as you'll notice, sales doesn't have a debit column in it either, because normally anytime you receive sales, sales goes up. It's hard to receive a negative sales, right? You can talk about a reimbursement of goods, but that would be a different account title itself. So you're not going to have a debit in the sales account, because the debit would make sales go down, and that would just be a totally different thing. So you're always going to see a sales credit. That's why there's no debit under there. So this is how this transaction looks. Our source document for this is calculator tape number 10. Remember, that's sort of an accounting calculator that records numbers. Could also be sort of like a sales register or a printout of different sales that you make. If you run a business in which you're using something like Square and you're just recording debit card or credit card transactions all day, you would just get a printout of the different transactions that you had, and it would be similar to something you would see even in your bank account too. So some different types of that, but we're just calling this calculator tape number 10. So tape, T for tape 10, and that is it. And we're good there. So cash from sales, anytime you're seeing that, just know that's where you're going to see a check mark there. And I'll show you on MindTap where that goes. Sold services on account, next transaction. When you sell services on account, you're not receiving cash for that sale, remember. However, you still treat it as a sale, and so sales are going to go up by 500, and then our accounts receivable for Main Street Services is going to go up as well. So the effect of this transaction is we are going to debit our accounts receivable, which is an asset account, and then we are going to credit sales by $500 as well. Remember, anytime you make a sale, you count it as revenue, whether or not you receive the cash for it. Step one, what's our date? happened on January 12th, so we're going to record the date there. Step 2, our debit is our accounts receivable account. And remember, again, we're back to the general category, so we need to record our debit under the general category for 500 and type in our account title, accounts receivable for Main Street Services there. Then record our credit. Our credit comes from sales, so we're going to record that under the sales credit, our special account column for $500. Our source document is from a sales invoice number 1, so we write S1 under the document number. And we are good with this transaction. Next one, paid cash for an expense. So again, you're paying cash for a communications bill, which includes cell phone and internet services. The effect of this transaction is that we are going to be debiting communications expense, which is an owner's equity account, and we are going to be crediting cash on the asset side. So let's look at our journal entry here, write the date over there on the left, 12. Where is our debit? Our debit is going to come from our communications expense, so we write that into the account title, debit for $80. Our credit is going to be recorded over in the cash special account column as a credit for $80. And our source document is check number 4, so we record C4 under the document number. Next transaction, paid cash for an expense. So in this one, it is going to be, we're using 2 different, we're just kind of going down here for 15. So on January 15th, paid cash. The effect of this transaction, we are going to debit equipment rental expense, which is an owner's equity account for $400, and we are going to credit cash for $400. Step 1, write the date. We're going to write 15 there. So that was our previous transaction there. So we're just kind of continuing down here. Record our debits. Well, our debit is going to come from equipment rental expense, which is an account listed on our chart of accounts. We'll record the debit here for $400. Since we're paying cash for this, we need to credit cash, and so that can be recorded over on the right underneath our special account column for $400. And finally, our source document comes from check number 5. We wrote a check for to rent that equipment, so record C5 over underneath the document number. Next transaction, received cash on account. So remember, we made a sale on account to Main Street Services. Now Main Street Services is going to be paying off cash, so we're dealing with 2 asset accounts. The effect of this transaction is we need to debit cash to make it go up by 200, and we are going to credit our other asset account, accounts receivable for Main Street Services, by $200, making it go down. On the journal, record the date, happened on January 16th. Record our debits. Our debit is going to be in the cash column here for a debit to make it go up. Record our credits. We're going back to that accounts receivable, Main Street Services. Record our credit for $200. And finally, our source document comes from receipt number 2. Record that underneath our document number column. Now you'll remember sometimes the owner of the business will withdraw some money, essentially paying himself. So Michael Delgado is going to withdraw $350 from Delgado Web Services. So the effect of this transaction, just using our T accounts back from Chapter 2, we're going to debit the Michael Delgado drawing account, which is an owner's equity account, and we are going to credit cash by $350 because our cash account is going down. So to record this, write the date, January 16th. Record our debits for $350 underneath the Michael Delgado drawing account. Record our credit of $350 over in the special account column for $350. And finally, this came from check number 6. So Michael Delgado essentially wrote himself a check for $350. It was check number 6. And we'll record that source document over here under the document number. And that is it. So let's have a